You know, what's crazy about this world is that you can be a good guy, you can have a cool personality, you can have even a stable job, you can have goals, dreams, and ambitions, but it means nothing if your looks don't match the hobbies you do. Have you guys ever seen somebody that's not a traditionally attractive guy? Maybe it's you, maybe it's somebody you know, and you see that person, they're nerdy, you know, they play video games, they nerded out, they got Pokemon cards, and they're like 25, or maybe in their 30s, 40s, or 50s, or they got Digimon cards, or they play Dungeons and Dragons, and they don't get no type of female attention or validation at all. And then you see a Chad or a Tyrone, and they may have played a Pokemon card game maybe once, or they may have played, you know, the actual video game, you know, back on the Game Boy days, maybe once or whatever, but because of their looks, they get accepted. Because of how they look, like, females are gonna be, oh my God, that's so cool, you know, and it's absolutely brutal. Yeah, you know, there's so many guys out there that want wives, that want lives, that want to actually know how it feels like to be loved, know how it feels like to be touched, know how it feels like to be hugged, know how it feels like to come home with a nice girl who has a home-cooked meal for you, a nice hug for you, and, you know, something between those legs that you can have. You know what I mean? And so many people, after a while, they start to turn savage, they start to turn more bestial, they start to turn to the dark side, simply because they have no love or validation. It's absolutely brutal. Meanwhile, you have some guys out there that just because of their looks, it doesn't matter if they're evil, it doesn't matter if they treat the girl bad. You know, I remember this one girl in high school, you know, she had this boyfriend or whatever that used to put hands on her, right? But she would always deny it and she would always defend him. You know what I mean? So there was really nothing nobody could really do. And everybody in class low-key knew it. Hell, even the teachers knew it. But because of this person's skin color configuration, and because this person, you know, was actually, I think his dad was like friends with like the principal or whatever, and even the principal was kind of abusive in ways as well. But because of that, he was kind of protected. And you know, this guy was a typical, you know, Chad. Now, he wasn't on the football team. He didn't play, you know, he didn't play any sports or anything. He just kind of had money like that. You know, he had a nice car in high school, you know. One of those kids that at 16, they get a nice car and, you know, pretty nice life. And the girl he was with, you know, she was cool, you know what I mean? Like, she was always nice to me and shit like that, and nice to a lot of people. But sometimes she'll come to school, you know, with like black eyes and stuff, and I remember they did some internal investigation on it, right? But nothing ever came up with it. You know, I guess his dad was really connected. And it goes to show you, man, either she was too scared to leave, or she didn't want to leave because of the potential benefits that she had for the relationship. But I've heard stories like that all the time. You know, that's not nothing new. Meanwhile, I remember this one kid, we'll call him Liam. And Liam, he liked this girl. He was always nice to her and stuff like that. There was times at lunchtime where, you know, because like in our high school or whatever, there's like designated, you know, seating areas. You know, there's like areas where I mean, you can sit whatever you want, but people naturally correlate, you know, to like the areas, you know, and one of the things was called the 900 building. Now to be under the 900 building, you got to be kind of popular. You got to be like, you know, on a football team. You got to be playing some sports. You got to be kind of cool, you know. But outside the 900 building, that's when, you know, I don't like calling people losers or failures, nothing like that. But people that are not socially accepted, you know, they're spread around. But as long as you're under that 900 building, because the 900 building was a big building. As long as you're under there, there's like different locations. If the cool people hung near the 900 building, right next to like the lunch line, not right next to like the locker areas or whatever, like the locker areas or the locker rooms. There was still some quite a distance, but still around that general area was like the cool kids area, right? And there's been times where she would kind of like stop going under the 9 because he would kick it around where the baseball players at. You know what I mean? There was like on the other side of the 9 as well, and there's been times where, you know, because like me, I was cool with everybody, so I'll go walk around different places. I didn't give a damn about none of those social hierarchies, you know what I mean? I'll just walk around, you know, I'm cool like that. And I would catch her, and I sit with Liam, and it's like, you know, the nerdy people be at like the golf people, and people, you know, that are into like, you know, punk rock or into like different stuff like that, you know, and and she would fit in. She's a popular girl, or popular because of her boyfriend. And it showed me a lot, man. You know, shit like that. And how many good guys out there? How many good guys who would have been great husbands, great boyfriends, great, just great partners in general, but because of their looks, they can't seem to catch a break in life when it comes to women. They can't get the right girl in their life, no matter how hard they try, no matter how nice they are, no matter how many jobs they work, because look at Jeremy Meeks. Jeremy Meeks was in prison. You know what I mean? He was in prison, and he got the daughter of a billionaire, not a millionaire, the daughter of a billionaire, to pretty much bail him out of prison, use her connections and then make him into a quote unquote model, and he became a multi-millionaire, and he had a baby with her. And I think he ended up leaving her too. And I think he got married with her and all that, got his clout up, got his millions up. I think he ended up leaving her with somebody else, if I'm not mistaken. But if Jeremy Meeks was called, let's just say, ugly Meeks or regular looking Meeks, or just a normal guy, no female with that type of wealth would even came that way. So when I hear people talk about, oh man, it's all about your money, 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 money. Yeah, money is important, don't get it twisted. But if you're a handsome enough guy, if you're an attractive enough guy, women don't give a fuck. You know how many people come out of prison and they're living at some woman's house and she takes care of him? He drives in the car, eats the food, he got beef with the son. You know what I mean? Like this ninja just got out of prison. He trying to beef with somebody's son? What the? You know what I mean? And the woman's probably going to choose, the prisoner over her own children. It happens all the time, every day. And then those good men, get kicked out, who get left, who get abused mentally, psychologically, and even physically. They say fuck it. There were once good guys that turned to the dark side. This world has a knack for turning people that have a good soul and a good spirit into the darkness. And then they wonder why a lot of men, they don't want to be bothered. They just want to have their sexual encounters with women and then go on. Like no one wants to commit to a modern day Western woman, to a modern day American woman, to a modern day England woman, to a Canadian, anybody from the Western hemisphere, and that's spreading to the other, it's spreading to the East as well, because a lot of these women, they have preliminary prerequisites that are just impossible to meet. Oh, you want to talk to me and you're not Chad or Tyrone, you'd have your own house, you'd have your own car, and a nice car, you'd have some type of social validation and social ascension, or online, or you need to be popular or famous. You're just some regular guy that drives trucks, even though you're making over $100,000 a year. They don't want to hear that. They don't care. It's like women love adventure. They hate when they live with a quote unquote boring guy. I've seen this so many times in my life. I've seen this, where this girl will be involved with like a stable relationship, but then she'll start cheating. She already got kids. She got a husband that, brings home the bacon. They got a nice 2-story house in the suburbs. They got a BMW or Benz and a Range Rover. Their kids go to the soccer clubs and soccer practice. The daughters, the daughters are some type of athletics or whatever. They're wealthy. The dad has a boat, all that. And the woman's still going to cheat because she's going to see somebody that's physically attractive and go for him every time. Even if the person doesn't have his economics right, the woman doesn't care. She cares about that attraction. It's that natural attraction. You cannot beat that. You can't beat natural attraction. It's like you as a guy, when you see a girl, within seconds that you want to engage in sexual activity with her. That within seconds. It doesn't take 5 minutes. It doesn't take 30 minutes. It takes 5 seconds, less than that. Your brain looks at her. Oh, she got a cute face, slim waist, nice little booty on her. So, you know what I mean? Okay, she cute. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I hit that from the back of that nasty smack. Hell yeah. You know what I mean? But most guys don't give a fuck if a woman has anything. You can see a girl that's homeless, and as long as she's pretty, you be like, well, hell, I can fix her up. Here, just give her a shower, give her a bath, make sure she ain't got AIDS and no diseases, and hell, clean her up, and hell, I put her in the house. Like, most guys think like that. Most guys don't care what a woman has. A woman can be 25, 28 years old without a car, and as long as she's pretty, most guys don't give a damn. They'll just take her in and try to build her up. It's not the same with women. When a woman sees a guy after a certain age and he don't have this and he don't have that, it's just not going to work. And number one, he has to have the looks. That's what women really go for nowadays. And I think that's in women's nature. See, back in the days, women were kind of forced, in their relationships, because back in the 50s, the guy, it doesn't matter how the guy really looked, because it's like, in those days, it mattered about being married and following quote-unquote good Christian values, you know, and I can break down the racial elements with that, but I'm not. And it's about keeping the momentum of society, of the dominant class. We already know who the dominant class of society is. And women back then, they had to marry before they got 25 or whatever, or they'll look weird to their family. So they married those guys because they need stability. And so they may not love their husbands in those days, but they had to marry them, have the babies, and that's why you hear marriages, oh, we've been married for 40 years, we've been married for 50 years. You're not going to hear that in this generation. You're not going to hear anybody in the year 2025 up in 2050, oh yeah, we've been married since 2025. Like, that's extremely rare, and it's probably not going to happen because women have too many options, and women goes for looks. A woman doesn't care if you're a good-hearted person. A woman doesn't care if you go to church. A woman doesn't care about those things nowadays. Hell, most of the women in churches, they're promiscuous. They got OnlyFans and OnlyFries on the side. Let's be real. Let's be real. So, throughout my whole life, I've seen this. I've seen some of the most coolest people. You know, they may not look the best. You know, they may be they have their little weird ways about them or whatever, but they're pretty cool people. But because they weren't traditionally attractive, women just treated them like trash. And then eventually they just shut themselves off and they isolated themselves, you know? Now, people always told me that I'm not an ugly guy, you know, that I'm actually handsome looking and shit like that. And it's like, yeah, I appreciate that. But, you know, when it comes to being a person of my skin color configuration, you have to really have those elements in place, you know? Like, you have to really have those elements in place, meaning that you have to look like what they really want. You can't be some short, you know, person with my skin color configuration. You have to have that face, you have to have the look, you have to have the whole package, you know what I mean? Now, my shillelagh is big, you know, I'll say that, you know what I mean? I got a big shillelagh, but it's useless if you have no girl that can take advantage of that and, you know, and enjoy the pleasures of sexual encounters, right? So, you know, when women look at a person of my skin color configuration, they think the NFL, they think the NBA, they think that. When they see somebody doesn't fit that mold, you know, he plays video games, he watches anime, he, you know, he keeps to himself, he loves poetry, he loves reading literature, he loves reading occult books, he loves gaining secret wisdom and knowledge and understanding. He's not a traditional ninja, he's a different type of ninja, you know what I mean? You know that some ninjas throw shurikens, and I try to take a fire element, mix it with an ice element, and mix it with an electric element, and make my own elemental shuriken. So it's like, what? That's weird. I never do that, you know? So it's like, you don't fit that mold. Like, when you're of a certain skin color configuration, you have to fit a mold. You have to fit what people want you to be in when you're in a certain skin color configuration. But other skin color configurations, they can be what they really want. Like, I've seen it before. I've seen somebody of a lighter tonality, you know, that can wear whatever they want, say whatever they want, do whatever they want. They be accepted by the family. See, somebody who looks like me, we gotta be accepted by the girl's friend group, her family, and all this other stuff. We gotta play these little social games, you know. I remember Sammy Guy made a video. He said, if I wasn't this, you know, if I didn't look like how I look like, you know, I gotta be careful how I speak because you know how YouTube is, you know, so I gotta be very extremely careful. So when you look like somebody like me, life's gonna just automatically be a lot more difficult than what it needs to be. It's gonna be difficult for just unknown reasons because people out there are so ignorant and arrogant. They don't they don't want to give you a chance to know you, even though you could be the perfect guy for their daughter. You know, you can have, you know, a great personality. You'll never cheat on her. You take care of her. Even when she's sick, you're taking care of her. Even if she breaks her arm, he's taking, you know what I mean? Like you really love that girl. They don't care. They look at you and they judge you based on appearance. Remember, life is all about your looks. How many people do we know? You know, I was just watching this one girl on let's just say this exotic site of pleasure, and she does ASMR as well. And you guys probably know her name is Gwen. Gwen Gwiz or whatever. She does ASMR, but she one of her videos was, you know, for, you know, adults. One of her videos, she was explaining how She was in Canada, she was stuck, and she was kind of broke, and she didn't have anything or much, but she kept getting by because guys would always pay for her. And then when she started her OnlyFriends, she said she made more money in 2 days than she made in 2 years. And I was like, damn. Like, she made enough money that she could move out of Canada, get her own house, get her dream car and everything she really wanted. But she said the reason why that she never really had the car she wanted is because guys were always taking her using their car, like taking her out to places using their cars, paying for the meals, paying for that. And she's beautiful. And it's like, if she wasn't attractive, she wouldn't get that treatment. And the same with guys, How many times have we seen somebody that was attractive get away with the most evil, heinous acts? Your looks determine everything in this life, unfortunately. And that's the brutal reality and the brutal truth.